Hello and welcome to Daily Prelims Practice, an initiative where we take up important news articles of the day and curate MCQs as per the demands of civil services exam. Articles covered today are shown on your screen and detailed description of answers are provided in PDF and Word format in the description box down below. So, let us begin.
Starting off with the first article of the day, which appeared on page 1 of today's Hindu newspaper. This article reports that the Calcutta High Court has ordered the West Bengal State Election Commission that it should take help of central forces in addition to state police in order to ensure free and fair elections to the panchayats in the state. Now, panchayats, they act as a third tier of the democratic setup in a country, and hence they are important from prelims point of view as well. This can be seen from this PYQ of the year 2016, where a question appeared on panchayats. On similar lines, here's practice question number 1. With reference to Indian Constitution, consider the following statements. Statement 1. All the seats in a panchayat are filled by direct elections. Now, the Article 243, subsection C of the Constitution highlights in its second clause that all seats in the panchayat shall be filled by persons who are chosen by direct elections from territorial constituencies in the respective panchayat area. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Now, moving on to statement 2. To maintain uniformity in the election process, the chairperson of a panchayat at village level is elected according to the law which is enacted by the parliament. Now, Article 243C and in subclause 3, it highlights that the chairperson of a panchayat at a village level is elected in such a manner as the legislature of a state may by law provide. Hence, parliament here is not correct, thus making statement 2 incorrect. Whereas a chairperson of a panchayat at intermediate level and at district level are elected from amongst the members itself. Now, which of the statement given above is or are correct? From the above discussion, we can safely say that option A is the right answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option B was the right answer. Now moving on to the second article of the day, which appeared on page 10 of today's Hindu newspaper. This article highlights that the G7 summit, which took place in Hiroshima recently, among other matters, initiated a Hiroshima AI process, also known as HAP, which is an effort by the G7 bloc to determine a way forward in order to regulate the artificial intelligence. Now, regulation of AI from both domestic and international perspective remains in news in one form or the other, and thus it is important from exams point of view as well. As you can see from this PYQ of the year 2020, where a question directly appeared on present state of development of artificial intelligence. Based on today's news article, here's practice question number 2. Consider the following statements regarding Hiroshima AI Process or HAP. Statement 1. HAP is expected to address AI regulation from a state-centric perspective. Now, this statement is incorrect because HAP mentions of a multi-stakeholder process, which indicates that HAP isn't expected to address the AI regulation from a state-centric perspective. Instead, it highlights the importance of involving multi-stakeholders in various processes and to ensure that the discussions are inclusive so that the process are fair and transparent. Thus, it seeks to help countries develop a common understanding on some of the key regulatory issues while ensuring that any disagreement does not result into a complete discord. Statement 2. The G7 communique indicates expected outcomes from HAP. This statement again is incorrect because the communique doesn't indicate the expected outcome. However, it indicates what values and norms will guide the AI regulation and from where it will derive its guiding principles. The communique highlights that the values such as freedom, democracy, and human rights will be taken into account so that the resultant regulation is fair, accountable, and transparent. Now, which of the statements given above is or are correct? From the above discussion, as both of the statements are incorrect, thus making option D the right answer. Whereas the PYQ is concerned, Option B was the right answer. Moving on to the third article of the day, which appeared on page 12 of today's Hindu newspaper. Commenting on the fact that India is yet to find a place as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council or UNSC, the Defense Minister said that the time has come for the UN and its bodies to be more democratic and representative of the current realities of our age. Now, the UN and its organs form an important part of international governance, and this makes it important from exams point of view as well. This is apparent from this PYQ of the year 2022, where a question appeared on United Nations Credential Committee. On similar lines, here's practice question number 3. Consider the following statements regarding the United Nations Security Council or UNSC. Statement 1. The non-permanent members of the Council are appointed by 2/3 majority of the General Assembly. Now, this statement is correct as the elections to the United Nations Security Council are held by a secret ballots and there are no nominations. The non-permanent members of the UNSC are elected by 2/3 majority of the General Assembly. Now, the second statement. The retiring members are eligible for re-election. Now, this statement is incorrect because there are 10 non-permanent seats which are distributed on a regional basis. Hence, a retiring member is not eligible for immediate re-election in order that the membership goes on to other members as well. Statement third. The members of United Nations are obligated to implement the decisions of Security Council. Now, while other organs of the United Nations make recommendations to member states, only the Security Council has the power to make decisions that the member states are obligated to implement as per the UN Charter. Hence, all the members of the United Nations have agreed to accept and carry out the decisions of the Security Council, thus making statement 3 correct. Now, how many of the above statements are correct? From the above discussion, we can safely say that 2 statements are correct, hence option B is the right answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option A was the right answer. Now moving on to the fourth article of the day, which appeared in page 16 of today's Hindu newspaper. The RBI governor has highlighted that the disinflation process in India will be slow and protracted, with the 4% inflation target is likely to be met only over a medium term. Now, controlling inflation is important from a macroeconomic perspective, which makes development around inflation important from exams point of view. Inflation has been asked by UPSC before, which is apparent from this PYQ of the year 2015. On similar lines, here's practice question number 4. Which of the following statements best describe disinflation? Option A. Price rise which is skewed to one or a small group of commodities. Now, this statement is incorrect because it is an example of skewflation, where general prices rise over a sustained period of time and this price rise is skewed to one or a small group of commodities. Option B. Fall in general level of prices characterized by negative rate of inflation. Now, this is termed as deflation. Hence, it is not an example of disinflation. Now, statement 3. Inflation, which is accompanied by slow economic growth and high unemployment. This statement describes an example of stagflation. Hence, it is not disinflation. Thus, option D, which says that slowing down the rate of inflation over a period of time is disinflation. Now, disinflation is a temporary slowing of pace of price rise, and it is used to describe instances where the inflation rate has reduced marginally over a short term. Hence, option D is the correct answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option C was the right answer. Now moving on to the fifth article of the day, which appeared on page 11 of the Indian Express. Puppet theatre is not just one performing art, but traditionally, it is a space where lot of knowledge systems come together. Puppet theatre is a combination of folk theatre, masks, and other forms as well. Now, India, being a diverse country, is endowed with various cultures and traditions, and all of this is reflected in puppetry of various states. Puppetry is also important from an art and culture perspective, as a previous year question in the year 2014 appeared on Kalari Payattu. On similar lines, here's practice question number 5. With reference to cultural aspects of India, consider the following pairs. This question asks us to relate puppetry art with various states. The first pair is that of Katputli, which according to the question belongs to the state of Rajasthan. This pair is correct. Whereas the second pair is that of Bomalattam, which is associated with the state of Tamil Nadu. This pair is also correct. The third pair is that of Yampuri, which according to the question belongs to state of Uttar Pradesh. Now this pair is incorrectly matched because Yampuri is associated with state of Bihar. Whereas the fourth pair is that of Putul which according to the question is associated with Bihar. Now this pair is also incorrect because Putul is associated with state of Odisha. Now, how many of the above pairs are correctly matched? From the above discussion, we can conclude that 2 pairs are correct, hence option B is the right answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, option D was the right answer. Now moving on to the last article of the day, which appeared on page 13 of the Indian Express. This article reports that the UNESCO has announced that the United States will rejoin it from July, and it is 4 years after it left the agency, alleging that the UNESCO was biased against Israel. This move to rejoin will face a vote by UNESCO's member states and is expected to pass easily. Now, United Nations and its associated bodies are important from prelims point of view, which can be seen from this PYQ of the year 2016 on Food and Agriculture Organization or the FAO. On similar lines, here's practice question number 6. Consider the following statements with reference to United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization or the UNESCO. Statement 1. States that are not the members of United Nations are admitted to UNESCO by 1/3 majority vote of the General Conference. Now this statement is incorrect because the membership of the United Nations carries with it the right to membership of UNESCO. States that are not the members of United Nations may be admitted to UNESCO upon the recommendations of Executive Board by 2/3 majority and not the 1/3 majority vote of the General Conference. The second statement, the CAME proposal led to the establishment of UNESCO. Now this statement is correct because in the year 1942, the governments of European countries met in United Kingdom for a conference called Conference of Allied Ministers in Education, also known as CAME. Upon the proposal of CAME, a United Nations conference for the establishment of an educational and cultural organization was convened in London in the year of 1945. Statement 3rd. UNESCO gets its funding contribution from member states only. This statement again is incorrect because UNESCO gets its funding from contribution by member states, voluntary contribution, fundraising, and other smaller sources of funding. Now, how many of the statements given above are incorrect? From the above discussion, we can say that 2 statements are incorrect, thus making option B the right answer. Whereas PYQ is concerned, here also option B was the right answer.